Okay, hello everyone. This is something I don't normally do, and this is definitely something new that I wanted to try. It's going to be my first voice recorded guide. On top of it being a voice recorded guide, I'm also going to be using my little avatar for the first time. I've just plugged him away underneath my controller, hopefully he won't be in the way. And basically today we're going to go over the Akuma combo optimization. So I made my basic guide back in 2021, kind of just explaining how to play Akuma. Basically, we're now going to delve a little bit more into the combos, and from delving into the combos, I'm going to be explaining things like what are your most optimal routes from light buttons and links, the mediums, your heavies, things like jump-ins, 1-bar routes for damage, stun, or Oki, as well as 2-bar routes and super routes, because this character has a lot of different combos for a lot of different circumstances. Those combos will be pretty generalized. Then I'm going to go into stuff more specific towards V-Trigger 1 and 2, using a V-Skill 1 and V-Skill 2, and then I'm going to break down a few setups that are pretty easy to execute and shouldn't be too difficult to learn, stuff for V-Trigger 1 and V-Trigger 2, because V-Trigger 2 does have a little bit of sauce when it comes to setups at the same time. So first thing we're going to get into is we're going to get into light combos. So basically when you're doing your light combos, on standing opponents, as I explained in the basic guide, that is going to be your main bread and butter on standing opponents. When it comes to crouching opponents, however, it'll just be medium Tatsu. But this still gives really good Oki. Anyway, if you're going to spend a bar, you can spend a bar on EX Tatsu, but you're 0 after a double dash. It's not really good mid-screen. This works a lot better in the corner where you can pick up extensions after the EX Tatsu. And if you want to spend a second bar here, you can go into EXDP. That is basically using EX Tatsu off the lights. For some reason, this is the only situation where EX Demon Flip cannot be used as an extension from the light Tatsu after you do your 2 lights hitting on a standing opponent. This is the only case where that doesn't work for some reason, as well as like far away crouching medium kill doesn't quite work out. But moving on to the mediums, I'm going to explain better that EX Demon Flip route when I go through the bar options. Basically, your basic bread and butter, as you know from the basic guide, is this: able to dash up +4 on a quick rise opponent. Do need a micro walk on a back rising opponent in order to get a meaty throw. So back rising definitely isn't your friend here. If you want to go for damage, just end in DP. It's not as good of Oki because you're not point blank, but definitely a worthwhile combo to use when you're in the corner. So dashing and trying to take up that space isn't really that needed. When it comes to the heavies, as I said in the guide as well, this is basically your bread and butter off of that, hitting normally as well. And if this counter hits, let's just change this to counter hit really quickly. If you're close, you can do the same combo. Otherwise, go for something like this. Getting the Demon Flip into palm is always a really, really good ender for this combo route. And pretty consistent, so if you hit this even at far out range, that dash will cover all that distance. When it comes to 1-bar routes off of your main bread and butter combos, there's a few routes you can go for. Obviously, if you want to get the damage, the answer should be very simple: EXDP. This does pretty chunky damage, 278 off of 1-bar off of your medium starter. Tends to be a good way to seal rounds if they're pretty close to dying, but you know the heavy punch DP won't kill them. If you want to go for Oki and corner carry, I highly recommend the EX Demon Flip into slide. This will carry someone all the way into the corner from the mid-screen. You do get dash up after that as Oki as well, and it still does decent damage at 250. So that's always a good route. If you decide you want to squeeze a little bit more damage out of this route, end it in a kick, and go into EXDP. This will pump to 300 damage, and you will basically carry them even further than the slide by itself. So that's a really good route to use there. When it comes to being in the corner, good place to be to transition into this part, there's a few different routes. And it mainly has to do with your combo scaling for when it comes to choosing between damage routes, because you now have 2 different damage routes mainly. If you have high scaling, or sorry, low scaling, so that moves are hitting at 100%, like right now, you want to be going for this combo route. This will hit harder than the next combo I'm going to explain when the scaling is at its maximum potential, if you want to call it that. But if the scaling begins to get too high and the damage begins to get really low, you want to make your route EX Fireball into an EX DP, or if you only want to spend 1 bar, you go into V-Skill Palm. Or V-Skill 2 if you have that as well. Like V-Skill 2 Stomp will spike the opponent as a combo ender there. But that is a preferred method for high scaling, because when the opponent is in high scaling, the burn does unscaled damage. So no matter if it's at 10%, 5%, does not matter. The burn will be doing its maximum damage, and you can squeeze more out of your combos that way. I believe I explained that in the basics guide. It has been a while, well over a year. There is also a route to do more stun as well. Often with a 1 bar route, if you want to do more stun, you will actually go for Demon Flip, end it in EX Tatsu. This throws a lot of stun onto the end of a combo. It's a really good way for you to build that up. Say if they're really close to getting stunned and you can inflict that with this EX Tatsu extension, I would definitely go for that. Now, for super routes, if we're going to go back to the mid-screen, the super routes often are really, really, really simple. We just want to go into Heavy Punch DP, 2 hits, go straight into super. 435 damage, it does really decent damage, honestly. There's not much to really scoff at there. When it comes to being in the corner, it is literally the exact same combo. The beauty about ending in super is that it just goes into the same thing. Very easy to get that there. Gonna go into jump-ins real quick. When it comes to doing jump-ins, often there are 2 routes that you kind of want to go for when you're doing jump-ins like in a match. If you want an easy combo route, that's always a really easy way to go into it. This does more stun than the next combo I'll show, which is that you would use for stun combos to get the most out of your damage. After you get the double stand heavy kick, obviously this just goes into whatever you want, right? This goes into whatever you choose when it comes to that. Just gonna remember to turn that off real quick. Now, when it comes to the corner, you have a few different options available to you. You can go for something like that. I wouldn't really recommend it unless if you want to go into super, because it has less hits. Super will hit at a higher scaling if I don't drop the combo. And it will net you a little bit more damage. This is also a good way to get a 1 bar route off of a jump in. Oh boy. There it is. That does really good damage for 1 bar. It's a good way to go. The alternative is hitting a combo like this. Oh my god. That also does do a little bit more damage than that. Obviously with Akuma, you can kind of understand that you can mix and match your combos as you go. So if you get a big jump in like this and you go, oh, this next hit might stun, you can change your combo to accommodate based on what you think will see fit. So obviously if I think the damage will kill in that situation, I'll just go for a damaging route there. Now, let's break down into the different V-triggers, because this is really important. V-trigger 1, when it comes to your combos, it is pretty simple, honestly. You just go for your normal B&B, you can add a hardo and get a hard knockdown DP. This uses 2/3 to 3/4 of your V-trigger gauge, but it pumps the damage meterless. And obviously going into super from there does a massive amount of damage. When it comes to the V-trigger in the corner, your damage can go up really high as well. So obviously we have literally the exact same route as before, which is a lot easier to get since we're in the corner. When it comes to cancelling this route into super, there is a trick that we can employ, and I will talk about this. It is a little bit hard. I know I wanted to keep it easy, but I think this is really worth it. Cancelling the fireball on the last frame into super will allow you to connect a full hard knockdown DP after the hit. Okay, we got it. Future me, please edit out all the failures. But yes, that is the optimal damage route in the corner if you want to spend super. Otherwise, just go for this route into super like you normally would. And you can afterwards, if you have V-time, connect a partial hit DP. But it does about 100, maybe 80 less damage than if you do the normal route. In the corner as well, another really important note is that since they're left so close to you, you can actually open yourself up to 1-bar extensions, such as this, to push your damage up a little bit more. If you are wanting to add a bar that wouldn't normally be accessible in this situation, you do have to go immediately into the hard open. But it does add some really nice damage onto your combos in the corner from there. Another 1-bar route, of course, if you have high scaling, you can go for something like this, get the burn, and you will connect your hard punch DP after that. Also applies to the Tatsu. Anywhere where DP would apply, you would always get your hard knockdown DP. Excuse me. Right, now when it comes to V-Trigger 2. V-Trigger 2, it can be very, very simple as well. We don't need to overcomplicate this trigger at all. Basically, what we're going to do with this trigger is the exact same combos, but you can add your EX extensions onto the end of them. This is a really easy way to just keep it simple. And gets, you know, really decent damage off of combos that really wouldn't add a lot of damage as well. This trigger really comes to shine in cases like doing crouching mean kick fireball, being able to cancel this into other combos. And gain access to damage that just would not be accessible outside of V-Trigger 1. Like, V-Trigger 1 would not be able to do that. That is something that ends up becoming exclusive to V-Trigger 2. Being able to make those extensions like that. At the same time, you can also cancel your pokes into other V-Trigger extensions to go into combo routes that would normally be accessible after stuff like this. Right? So this, I can turn that into an Oki corner carry route. Or I could add stun and add attack on at the end there as well at the same time. V-Trigger 2 will truly shine in the corner, as this gives you access to massive combos that are just what I reckon are pretty ridiculous. Whoops. Like, for 2 bars, this is a pretty ridiculous amount of damage for 2 bars. Like, our B&B super combos from earlier mid-screen are doing less damage than a 2-bar combo that would just happen there, right? So there are many different ways to utilize your V-Trigger 2 in combos that way. Now, when it comes to your V-skills, V-skill 1 is a excellent V-skill as I described in the basic guide. Basically, your combos should be ending in this V-skill, as this is your best route when it comes to damage as well as Oki. It's a really good balance. For example, our basic B&B now turns into that. It does good damage. You get point blank Oki. If you time it right, you can cover a quick rise and back rise with a single crouch heavy punch. It's always a good option. There's no real reason to not do it. With the change to the V-skill not being able to sideswap anymore, you can also go into damage B&Bs like this to squeeze more damage out of your basic B&B combos. And they are also really good combos for the corner as well. Like this route will always end in a meaty crouch heavy punch off of whiff jab after a heavy tatsu in the corner. It'll cover quick rise and back rise. On back rise, it makes the crouch heavy punch more plus on block as well because it hits in the later active frames. Obviously, for damage extensions, we can go for EXDP after the flip kick into tatsu. So like this. That's easy way to extend the damage. With V skill 1, we get access to a 1-bar side swap, which is your preferred way to side swap because you maintain Oki and also sustaining the damage output of your combo. The other ways to go into a side swap without that would be something like this, but the amount of damage lost, it's really not worth it. When it comes to 2-bar routes, there's not many 2-bar routes out there. You can kind of get a bit fancy with it and do one of these. But at that point, you might as well just do it from here and get more corner carry that way. When it comes to the V skill 2, V skill 2 tends to be more finicky than your V skill 1. V skill 1 has consistency. V skill 2 has a lot more damage on the table, but you do need to be close to the opponent to have access to all your combo routes. There are ways around this, and I will explain this. So for example, V skill 2, that is your BNB in V skill 2. This does more damage than your BNB with V skill 1, and still does pretty good corner carry, although you are left a bit far away from the opponent. The only issue with this V skill is that during certain combos, the BNB will drop. If you are afraid of your BNB dropping, it's actually not a bad thing, or not too bad of a thing, to set up another V skill, and then you have this ready to go, right? It's the same with off crouching heavy punch. Sometimes these combos might drop out. To alleviate this, you can spend a bar and get right up in there to pick up combos that you think are too far away. This is good damage for 1 bar. This is always accessible in the mid screen, getting a double dash. And on top of that, you can set up combos in the corner that set up a V skill 1 stomp at the end, and it lets you maintain a V skill fireball charge, which is really important, right? For 2-bar routes, really the best 2-bar route that I can think of is just going into EXDP, because that will more than likely carry someone to the corner. If you're really worried about that, you can go for a heavy deep and flip palm. This was also a very optimal 1-bar combo. Doesn't do as much corner carry as a double dash heavy tatsu, but this will do slightly more damage, but the Oki is much better off this ender as well. When it comes to being in the corner with V skill 2, using the stomp in your combos, as I already explained, whoops, you do have to time it, but it's not hard to time. You can always end in stomp to maintain a V skill charge. I would highly recommend this, as this just buffs your neutral game massively. However, if you don't want to go for that, you can just end in your DP or your tatsu at the end here. EXDP is a good 1-bar route off of an extension like this. Another really good 1-bar route, as I showed earlier, is using the EX Red Fireball after the stomp. A really good 2-bar route, and this is what I would recommend as well, is this route. This route does big damage. Really good stun. It almost touched 500 stun off the 2-bar combo, off of just your medium starter. And on top of that, we have kept the V skill charge. So this is always a really, really good option to use when it comes to your corner combos here. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to explain what happens if you already have a V skill charge, because this does change your combo routes in neutral. So off of basically any of your medium pokes, you can combo into your good enders fully off of any of these hits. And you can substitute Tatsu for this, and it builds V meter, does more damage, and it gives you just as good Oki. On top of that, this is actually comboable off of some light strings. Unfortunately, not off of your crouching or standing light punch. However, if you do punch the light kick, you can pick up a full combo this way. Off of any situation like this, you can also spend your bar to pick up into a full combo, which is really good as well, because even at tip ranges, this will pick up from your pokes at the same time. So this is a good way to spend a bar. And of course, you can try and end it in palm. This is a bit more tricky at a time, so I would honestly just go for a heavy Tatsu from here. If you want to go for a 2-bar route, should be pretty self-explanatory. Go for something like this. You can, on the other hand, go into a EX Demon Flip after EX Red Fireball as well. This is just a little bit too slow due to the pop-up using the normal Red Fireball after a dash. So if you're really close, you can try and pick it up off of the normal Fireball, just doing it raw like that. But it doesn't get all the hits on the way up, but it still gets really good corner carry. Of course, you can combine these with your V triggers. V trigger 2 is very simple. If you know the ender routes to cancel into, whoops. Then that is a easy way to extend your combos like that as well. Like just any ender you can think of. Then you can cancel into your V trigger 2. I kind of forgot to do it there, but you get the idea, right? You can combine the knowledge of how you cancel into your V trigger 2 as well as your V skills to fully maximize your damage output. On top of this, I will quickly go into some setups, right? So we want to look at what are the common ways or best ways to activate into your V trigger and your V skill. When it comes to V trigger 1 or V trigger 2, using your V skill 1, palm is always a really good way to go. It can help you build your last bit of meter on block. You activate into it, it will be plus. It's a parry as well, so you can do parry a move into the activate at the same time. That's a good way to go about it. Another way is going into sweep activate. It's a pretty standard activate for a lot of characters, and if this crush counters, you can go into a setup. In V trigger 1, you can also activate into this off of your target combo, including on block, and you can also go into this off any of your fireballs at the same time, including on block. To go into these combos, basically after heavy punch target combo, just dash light DP from your fireballs. Red Fireball will get you a 2-hit medium Tatsu into DP. Off normal Fireball, just go straight into DP. If you want to extend a combo off Heavy Punch DP, do 2 hits dash light DP. And they are the common activation routes when it comes to that. Now, when it comes to setups off of V trigger 1, now, Crush Counter Sweep is the first and most common way to activate into a setup. You can set up a mix here by doing this sequence: sweep, activate, light demon flip, light fireball, and then go into either a medium or a light demon flip. Light demon flip will stay on the same side and they have to block in this direction, while a medium demon flip will cross over them and they have to block in the other direction. If they do happen to block off that though, you will be left -3. To alleviate this, if you want to stay plus, there is another way to get the side swap. Whoops. Like Tatsu, it leaves you very plus on block and at the same time crosses over very, very quickly. so it's often a good route to go for. If this mix-up hits at any point, you get a full like medium B&B starter, maybe even a heavy B&B depending on how plus you end up being after the fireballs hit. But mediums are always a very consistent way to go into that. The other way I was going to explain another setup here. This is a bit more of a cheesy one, however this can catch people off guard if they've never seen it before. On hit, if you do your poke into a red fireball and it connects, dash up, whiff a demon flip palm into demon. This is a pretty like self-explanatory way. As you do the demon flip, input 2 jabs as it whiffs, and then do the rest of your demon, and this give you your whole demon input as you recover and land on the ground. It's basically going to catch people trying to look for you hitting them with the palm, so when the palm whiffs, by the time they realized, oh shit, that didn't hit me, probably be too late for them to react. The final setup I had is if your sweep gets blocked, because often, a lot of the time, when you're playing, you might do a sweep activate, and it ends up getting blocked, and you're like, oh shit, what do I do from here? There is a cheeky way to get a demon set up in here. I do not remember if I explained this in my dash demon setup guide, which is also on my channel, but you can fit a dash demon in here as a sweep activate perfectly sets up the dash demon. As you activate dash, you are left to -2 point blank. This essentially sets up a mix-up for you to do a dash demon like this. Go check out my dash demon guide if you are unsure about how to execute a dash demon consistently. However, I would highly recommend this as a way to quickly close around. It can catch a lot of people off guard off of that dash demon there. I'm not going to go into the V-skill demon setups with the Kara cancels because I believe that's a little bit too hard to immediately pick up, and I don't want to do anything too advanced like that. I just kind of want to keep this a little bit short and sweet when it comes to this sort of stuff. Now, when it comes to V Trigger 2, the main setups I like to use often involve chip kills. So when you're in the mid screen, there is a way for you to chip kill your opponents. You can go into what was the combo again? I have to remember. So you can set up some pretty decent chip kills in the mid screen. That is all a true block string. People are not going to be able to kit out of that. And like you'd be surprised at how easily you're able to chip kill people. In the corner, this gets even worse when you're in V Trigger 2. So we're going to start in the corner here. You can link back heavy punches into themselves, and this does a ridiculous amount of chip damage if you can start this in the corner. The final thing I want to point out with this V-trigger is that there's a very easy and cheap way to set up plus frames that is surprisingly hard to stop with this. So when you go and activate your trigger, that dive kick is always +2. And it's extremely hard to stop for characters without a DP. Due to the fact that the gap is so low that kick can also often counter hit buttons trying to snipe you out of the air in that situation. So characters that lack DPs and are not ready for it, you can easily mix them up with either going that way or stay plus and be on that side. So if someone is respecting this demon flip dive kick, you can set up sequences like this. Whoopsies. Very, very strong indeed. That's a really good way to utilize your V skill 2 to abuse players on block, and it's a good way to dump your bar as well, because obviously being a 2-bar V trigger, if you can get this early, especially with the use of V skill 2 and how quickly you can build V time with your V skill 2, you might be able to burn an entire 2 bars on activation just to get some cheap pressure, push someone to a corner through pure block strings, and then be able to build that back up again to maybe utilize later on to kill an opponent with a really, really big combo. That is about all I wanted to cover with the combo optimization. Hopefully that made a lot of sense. Definitely keep experimenting with Akuma and what he can do, and you'll find that you can squeeze a lot out of this character, as he has a lot to squeeze out of him. My name's Midnight Oz. I am going to hopefully feature me. We'll link my socials above my head right about now. Be sure to check out my Twitch channel as well. I try and stream whenever I am available to stream due to my work. And follow me on Twitter. I tend to post fighting game stuff on there from time to time. I have also got a Discord server, so if you guys are interested in joining my server, shoot me a message on one of my socials, and I'll see to getting you guys invited. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.